One minute you feel a real connection, the future feels possible. The next you feel an overwhelming urge to pull back, to create distance. You find yourself staring at your phone, deliberately not answering that text, actively creating the very silence you might also dread. That pattern of cutting people off, especially when things start to feel real, isn't just confusing for the person on the other end. It's a deeply frustrating cycle for you, the man caught inside it. It can leave a void where that connection used to be, and in that empty space, a familiar loneliness starts to grow. You might ask yourself, why do I do this? Why do I push people away when things start getting good? Am I even built for this? But what if this pattern, this disappearing act, has almost nothing to do with a character flaw? What if your impulse to withdraw isn't a sign that you're bad at relationships, but a reflection of powerful psychological patterns you might not even be aware of, let alone in control of? In this video, we're going to unpack the 3 hidden reasons, from societal conditioning to deep-seated fears, that can compel you to cut people off. We'll explore the forces that can turn you from someone who's interested and engaged into a ghost who leaves others with nothing but questions. And by the end, you won't feel so broken. You'll have clarity. You won't feel defined by this pattern. You'll feel empowered to understand it. The first, and maybe most fundamental, reason you might cut people off isn't born from malice, but from a deep and often invisible deficit. It's not that you don't feel anything for the other person, it's that you may never have been given the tools to process what you feel. From a young age, society hands boys a very specific and limiting emotional script. Phrases like, boys don't cry, man up, or toughen up, aren't just words, they're instructions. They are the programming that teaches you that certain emotions, sadness, fear, vulnerability, confusion, are unacceptable. These feelings get labelled as weakness, so they have to be suppressed, ignored, and pushed down. Anger often becomes one of the few socially acceptable emotions for a man to express, because it's seen as a sign of strength and control. This isn't just about hiding tears. This conditioning leads to a critical gap in development, a lack of emotional skills. Think of emotions as a language. While many women are encouraged to become fluent in it, to talk about their feelings and connect through vulnerability, many men are taught to be emotionally quiet. You can't speak the language because you were never allowed to learn it. You might feel a complex mix of intimacy, fear, and excitement. But when it's time to talk about it, you have no words. The only tool you have is to withdraw. This is why a relationship can feel like it's going perfectly, and then, just as real emotional intimacy starts to deepen, you pull away. That depth requires a level of emotional communication you simply don't have. The closeness that the other person sees as a beautiful sign of progress, you might experience as a terrifying test you know you're going to fail. You feel overwhelmed, not by them, but by your own internal world that you have no map for. This problem is made worse by another social pattern. Men are significantly less likely to seek support from friends, family, or mental health professionals. While women often build strong networks for emotional support, many men live on emotional islands. Your friendships might be built around shared activities, but rarely around shared vulnerability. So when you face a powerful emotional experience like falling for someone, you face it alone. There's often no one to talk to or help you figure out these new feelings. The silence you create is often a reflection of the silence you experience in your own life. This is where the emotional labor in relationships can become unbalanced. You might find your partner trying to decode your silence, asking questions, and trying to create a safe space for you to open up. They become not just your partner, but your emotional translator. It's an exhausting role for them, and a frustrating one for you. Understanding this isn't an excuse for your behavior, but it is an explanation. It's the first step to realizing this pattern isn't a personal failing, but a skill you were never taught. Your tendency to withdraw isn't a sign of coldness or a lack of care. It's a sign of a missing toolkit. And the good news is, skills can be learned. You're not broken, you're just unpracticed. Seeing your withdrawal as a skill deficit rather than a character flaw opens the door to change. It frees you from the shame of the pattern and empowers you to start learning the language of emotion so you can finally build the connections you want without feeling the need to run. The second, deeper reason you might cut people off is often an unconscious survival mechanism. This isn't a conscious choice. It's an automatic biological reflex wired into your nervous system by past pain. This is you disappearing not because you're unskilled, but because you're scared. Your system has been programmed to see intimacy as a threat. Past trauma, whether it's from childhood, a deeply painful breakup, or growing up in an emotionally unavailable home, leaves a lasting mark on the brain. Specifically, it can make the amygdala, the brain's internal alarm system, hypersensitive to perceived threats. For a man with this background, a moment of deep connection, a vulnerable conversation, or even a minor conflict can trigger that alarm. The very thing that signifies a healthy, deepening bond, emotional closeness, can feel like a life-threatening danger to your system. This leads to a powerful physiological experience that relationship expert Dr. John Gottman calls emotional flooding. When you're flooded, your body is overwhelmed by stress hormones. Your heart rate can spike to over 100 beats per minute, and the logical, rational part of your brain effectively goes offline. In this state, you literally cannot think clearly, process information, or communicate. Your body has entered a primal survival mode, fight, flight, or, in this case, freeze. This freeze response is the shutdown. It's a form of dissociation, a psychological and biological escape. You may still be physically there, but emotionally you're gone. To the other person, it feels like you're punishing them or deliberately shutting them out. But in reality, your nervous system has hit the emergency brake to protect you from what it perceives as an overwhelming emotional threat. You feel so much that you're forced to feel nothing at all. This shutdown is often followed by flight, the ghosting. After you've had a chance to retreat and get your system back to a baseline, the experience leaves a powerful residue of fear and shame. You feel shame for shutting down, and that shame only reinforces the belief that there's something wrong with you. The easiest way to avoid experiencing that shame and overwhelm again is to avoid the trigger altogether, and you've identified the trigger as the intimacy with that person, so you cut them off. It's a desperate attempt to regain control and ensure you never have to face that terrifying feeling again. Your vanishing act wasn't a calculated display of cruelty. It was an automatic self-protective reflex. It was a trauma response. You weren't rejecting her or him. You were recoiling from a feeling your nervous system has encoded as dangerous. Recognizing this pattern isn't about blaming the past. It's about understanding what's happening in your body in the present. You're not running from the other person. You're running from a ghost, and you can't outrun it. The only way out is to turn around, understand the trigger, and begin teaching your nervous system that you are safe now. This awareness transforms you from a victim of your own reactions into an active participant in your healing. You can learn to manage the flood instead of letting it wash away every chance at a healthy connection. Before we get to our final, and perhaps most complex reason, let's break the silence on this. This experience of feeling compelled to cut someone off can be incredibly isolating, making you feel like you're the only one who does this. You're not. How many of you have felt that sudden, overwhelming urge to pull back right after a moment of true closeness? You don't have to share the details, but drop a comment if you know that feeling. Reading that others share this experience is a powerful reminder that this is a common struggle, and your story matters. Our final reason moves beyond a single reaction and into the realm of a deeply ingrained relational strategy. This is the man who cuts people off not just as a momentary panic response, but as his primary mode of operating in relationships. This is when you operate from an avoidant attachment style. Attachment theory explains how our earliest bonds with caregivers shape our blueprint for relationships in adulthood. If you have an avoidant attachment style, the lesson you likely learned early in life was that depending on others is unsafe or unreliable. You learned that true safety comes from radical self-sufficiency. As a result, you grow into an adult who prizes independence above all else. This creates a painful paradox in your romantic life. You do crave connection, just like anyone else. You'll pursue it, often with charm and intensity at first. But as the relationship deepens, your internal alarm goes off. The closeness you thought you wanted now feels like a threat to your identity, a cage that will trap you and strip you of your freedom. This is where ghosting becomes a core strategy. It's the ultimate tool for re-establishing distance and control. By vanishing, you instantly sever the bond that feels threatening and restore your sense of independence. In your mind, this isn't a relationship failure, it's a successful escape. It feels like a solution. However, this freedom is an illusion. While ghosting provides short-term relief, this pattern traps you in a cycle of superficial relationships and chronic loneliness. You are perpetually lonely because you never allow anyone to get close enough to offer real connection. This chronic disconnection is a significant risk factor for mental health issues like depression and anxiety. And while research shows men may not report loneliness as often, they are less likely to seek healthy support, sometimes turning to distractions like workaholism or substance use to numb the emptiness. This pattern isn't protecting your freedom, it's costing you true connection. That freedom you keep running towards is often just a different kind of prison, a solitary one. Recognizing this isn't about shaming yourself, it's about seeing the cage for what it is. Your desire for independence is a strength, but when it forces you to sabotage every chance at deep connection, it becomes a barrier to the very thing you might secretly want most. You're not choosing freedom over love. You're letting an old, outdated pattern choose loneliness for you. Seeing this clearly is the first step toward dismantling the cage. It allows you to consciously choose a different path. One where you learn that true freedom isn't found in running away from connection, but in feeling secure enough to stay. So, what does this all mean for you? We've explored the 3 core psychological drivers that might be behind your pattern of cutting people off. The unskilled man, a product of societal conditioning that left you without an emotional language. The traumatized man, whose nervous system mistakes intimacy for a threat and triggers a shutdown reflex. And the avoidant man, whose attachment blueprint forces you to flee the very closeness you crave. In every one of these scenarios, the story is the same. Your silence is a statement about your capacity, not a verdict on your character. Your disappearance is a reflection of your limitations, not a judgment on the other person's worth. It's easy to get caught in a cycle of your own self-criticism, thinking, I'm just not cut out for this. But the truth is, this pattern is not a fundamental flaw in who you are. It's a learned response. You did not cause these patterns to form, but you are the only one who can decide to change them. Your healing is your own journey, and it's a journey you must choose for yourself. I want you to reframe this painful cycle. Your impulse to vanish is the clearest and most honest piece of communication you feel capable of in that moment. It's a no, without words. It's your system telling you, I am not available for this. I am not equipped for this connection right now. But receiving that no from your own system is not a life sentence of isolation. It is a yes to self-awareness. It's a yes to respecting your own limits. And most importantly, It's a yes to the possibility of finding a new way to relate to others, one that doesn't require you to run. The frustration of this pattern is real, but it doesn't have to define you. Let it be the experience that clarifies what you need to heal. Let it be the fire that forges your resolve to build new skills. The right person for you will not be someone you see as a threat. They will feel like home, and you will not have to be convinced to stay. If this video brought you some peace or clarity, please subscribe and turn on notifications. We explore the psychology of modern relationships every week to help you navigate your journey with wisdom and self-compassion. And remember, be gentle with yourself. Your worth was never in question.